day. What day is it? It's Mrs. Meckstroth's favorite day. It's Friday. It's Chapel Day. And I'm excited. When you guys are coming in worshiping like that, it starts my day off very, very well. Welcome to all our guests. We must have a lot of students in the sunlight when we have guests like this. So welcome, guests. We're very excited to read about our special students at the end of the chapel. We have two people here from our chapel committee, and they are ready to welcome Nick Baker and George Michael.
Thank you for coming to chapel today. It's Mr. Wilkes' birthday.
Let's pray. Dear God, thank you for this day, and thank you that we can come together and worship God, and thank you that Mr. Wilbur can have a good day, and amen. Thank you for staying with us every day, and we just hope that everyone knows that your grace is enough.
Part of the reason I love Friday so much is because when they sing, God, there's voices, your voices are just lovely, voice girls. And I know that God is smiling up there as he hears you singing that to him. What a wonderful world because God reigns. Well, God also sent us his word, doesn't he? And so he's been sending you a message through our yearly verse. And this month we've been working on the second beatitude from Matthew 5, verse 4. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Now, mourning is something we probably don't like to think about, and we don't particularly like to go through. But depending on your age, you probably think of different things when you hear that word mourn. The dictionary defines mourn as to sorrow, to grieve for, or to deplore. Now that deplore is probably a word you haven't heard, so we'll be talking about that. I think many of us think of death as a time to mourn. We show sorrow over the loss, and we may cry. In fact, that is why we have visitations and funerals. When someone dies, so that their loved ones have a time to mourn, to show sadness, to cry, to remember their loved ones. And those of us who go can comfort them, maybe with a hug, maybe with a remembered memory about their loved one. So that is a time that we all mourn when we lose a loved one. Now for you younger people, maybe you think first of all of the loss of a pet. I still vividly remember when my dog died. We had a little black and white rat terrier. I'm sorry that isn't my dog's real picture because I only have one picture of this dog, I think, and it wouldn't come through well enough. It was an old picture. And her name was Tiny. And she lived till I was 13. So I had had her for 13 years. And when she died, I was really sad. I mourned, I cried, I missed her because you know what? She used to run around the farm. I lived on a farm. And so when we would drive in the barnyard with our car, Tiny would just run circles around the barnyard. She was just so happy to see us. So I really missed her. Now recently, we know that Mrs. Long and Margot mourned their dog, Dino. And that was hard for them too. How many of you remember mourning a pet that you have lost? Yeah, just look around. That's been a lot of us, hasn't it? So we know what it is to be sad when we lose our pet. However, boys and girls, this beatitude means a whole lot more than just mourning somebody's death or of someone or something. The dictionary definition also uses the word deplore. Now, boys and girls, we're probably more familiar with deploy. That's why people leave and go into the army, they leave this country, go someplace else. But deplore means to be exceedingly filled with grief. You're very, very sad, to express deep grief. Therefore, mourning means to express deep sadness over, think of these things, and have you mourned over these? Wrongdoing, inappropriate behavior, dishonest behavior. Do we mourn over those? Do we show deep sadness when we do those things? When we do, there's a way of showing that mourning. It might be tears. It might be being willing to let go of an emotional hurt that somebody did to you. It might be unhappiness. And finally, the way we overcome mourning is to reconcile. That means to become friendly with God. Have you thought about doing that when you've done something wrong or an inappropriate behavior? I want to contrast that with, let me tell you about something that happened in my office. I recently had a student here at Troy Christian who really did mourn. He expressed deep sadness over some unkindness he had shown to some other boys and girls right here at our school. He cried over what he had done. Therefore, when he asked the other students to come in to apologize, they could see that he had deplored. He had deep grief over what he'd done. And what do you think they did when he apologized? Go ahead. It's okay. They comforted him. In fact, they didn't just say it's okay. They got up and gave him a hug. Blessed are those that mourn, for they will be comforted. And that's what the students right here at Troy Christian were doing in my office when somebody showed deep grief. Now, I want to contrast that with some things that sometimes occur in my office. It's not always deep grief. Sometimes when somebody comes into my office for inappropriate behavior, they use excuses. Let's see some of those excuses. I was just kidding. It was an accident. I didn't do that. He told me to do it. I don't remember. He did it first. Now, boys and girls, when people start saying that, are they mourning what they have done, or are they just trying to get out of it? Tell your neighbor. Yeah, I could hear you. Okay, back here to listen. They aren't mourning it, are they? They're just trying to get out of it. And according to our beatitude, it says, blessed are those who mourn. So if that person isn't mourning, they will not be comforted, will they? You will not be comforted because you haven't made it right. Something inside you just doesn't feel right, like you're trying to hide something. There are many ways that God gives us to comfort us if we truly mourn things like inappropriate words or actions. Comfort comes in these things. And look on our screen here. You may have a feeling of peace then. You no longer feel bad inside. You may have that feeling, I've been forgiven. And you know what else happens? You have courage and freedom to move on. You've been forgiven. And finally, you feel close to God again. You feel like you're in fellowship. You know what that means? It means like you have crawled up on God's lap and He's cuddling you. How many of you have wanted to do that with grandpa or grandma or mom or dad? Something's hurt you and you want to be comforted, and the only thing that really comforts is that hug and being able to be up on somebody's lap. I think all of us can remember that, can't we? So if we mourn what we have, what's happened, comfort comes. Let's look at that second beatitude again. And this time, I want all of you to say it with me. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Matthew 5:4. Boys and girls, I hope you're learning about these beatitudes like I am. Because I usually thought of mourning about somebody dying, my pet, or somebody's death. But in God's kingdom, He wants us to be sad like He is sad. Let's rephrase. It's called a paraphrase. Let's rephrase that beatitude and see if it helps you. Look up there. Happy are those who have done something wrong. We're happy we've done something wrong. That's only the first part of it. Listen to the second part. And are ready to not repeat it, for they will be forgiven. You know, when you've done something to your friend and you say you're sorry, that also means I'm not going to do it to you again. I've learned. And then that's a wonderful feeling. We can be forgiven. We can be comforted. Now, another way of thinking about it is thinking about what God's response is. Happy are those who are really sad for whatever reason. I mean, God wants us to be sad? No, but He knows we will be. And when we are sad for doing wrong, here's what happens. Because you can instantly feel God's loving arms around, beneath, and above you. Those arms that are holding you securely and lovingly. Just like dads or moms or grandmas or grandpas when you're feeling really bad. Boys and girls, I hope that you're going to be thinking a lot more about this beatitude than you did before. There are many things that we can mourn about. And some of those are the death of pets, like my dog or Margot's dog, or many, many things that you've done to each other. God wants us to mourn those. However, the reason we do that, we need to be sorry because those same things make God sad. Okay? You know, sometimes when you're in my office, I say to you, that's why people send their kids to Troy Christian. They don't want them to be hit. They don't want them to hear bad words. They want nice. So if we forget to do something like that, we need to mourn that and ask for forgiveness. Well, boys and girls, that's our second beatitude. We've done the first one. Let's do the first two together. And I hope you don't even have to read it, are you? Blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Now, if you see up there, the very first symbol at the very top, that's when we are poor in spirit. We're humble. We're thinking of others before ourselves. Remember? We want to be what Jesus wants us to be. And then go across. Does that look like a teardrop coming out of somebody's closed eye? It's like the eye is closed. And you know what? Somebody is here that I think we need to thank. Mrs. Clint, who takes the videos and stuff here, she's here, and you know what? She came up with this full diagram with the symbols, with all of that. And Mrs. Clint, that so helps us to keep it in our mind. Let's give Mrs. Clint a round of applause. So now when you come into my office and we're talking about things, I don't just kidding. It was an accident. Let's hear some real taking responsibility for that in the morning. Well, I know part of the reason why Dr. Wilbur comes over here is because, first of all, he likes to praise with us. He doesn't get nearly the number of hugs over there that is here. So he's here, and he's going to do hugging for us. So you're going to join me, Dr. Wilbur. He's going to do hugging for us, and you can hug Dr. Wilbur on his birthday, so give him a big hug. Feels like